Welcome to PhD with Women on It, Hack the Future. My name is Beata Young, and today's PhD, A Positivity Hacks Delivered, will be by our guest Elizabeth Naumovski. Topic: Conquer fear, unleash courage, and become a badass leader with Elizabeth Naumovski. Episode 147 starts here. Let me remind you, this is a grassroots community that focuses on women on IT, forum of women in technology, startups, and female leaders who are supported by men as well. And I bring heart to that hustle because empathy is my mojo. And empathy is critical when you are conquering fear, unleashing courage, and becoming a badass leader. First, I would like to mention some things that have been happening in the world of technology and our community. A big toast to our former PhD guest, Elaine Montilla, for being recognized as one of the remarkable contributors to LGBTQT and tech leaders. Happy Pride Month indeed. And happy Pride Month to all our LGBTQT tech leaders, family, and friends. May you continue to celebrate love, diversity, and equality. And finally, our mention goes to congratulations to today's guest, Elizabeth Naumovski, on landing a role as a local reporter on a Canadian horror film. We're excited for you. Now
Thank you.
let's go. You're very welcome. Let's go back to our topic: conquering fear, unleashing courage, and becoming a badass leader. Do you feel like fear holds you back sometimes? This interview is for you. You can develop the skills that will help you crush your professional goals, become more confident. You can achieve finally financial freedom. Join us for this powerful interview with award-winning financial guru and female empowerment advocate Elizabeth Naumovski. Elizabeth has climbed volcanoes and conquered boardrooms. She's here to share her secrets on taming fear and embracing courage, developing unstoppable confidence, building leadership skills that command respect, and teach us financial strategies, plus getting some actionable career tips and inspiration. So, Elizabeth, let's start with a simple question. Where in the world are you joining us from?
Okay, so right now I am in hot and humid Toronto, Ontario, Canada. We're going through a heat flash right now. A lot of thunder and lightning and rain yesterday. So we'll see what happens for the rest of the week.
But it's the weather that sometimes gets scary. But tomorrow we'll see rainbow and it will be over. So since we are talking about conquering fear and feeling these stepping stones to make our life better, Elizabeth, tell us about your most fearful moment in life.
Oh my goodness, I had a list. I put together a list for you. Um, One of my most fearful moments was sitting on the driveway of my house, signing the papers and buying this house, thinking I'm going to have a mortgage for the rest of my life. I'm going to be a slave to this house for the rest of my life because I bought it by myself. And if I may add, 4 days after I bought the house, I broke up with the individual that I was dating at the time. So instead of looking at two salaries to help carry me through, I ended up doing it by myself. That was number one. Number two, another terrifying thing for me was I am not a very good swimmer. I am afraid of drowning. And I went to Iceland with my girlfriend, Leslie, and she had booked this snorkeling through Silver Fisher. And I said, Les, I'm having a hard time with this. I'm not a really good swimmer and I'm starting to, panic about it. And she said, all my friends that have done it said it was incredible. It was the most incredible experience of their life. And I said, okay, I'm going to suck it up. I'll do it. And when I got there, we had to put a dry suit on because it was 2 degrees Celsius. So not only was it really, really cold, but I had to worry about snorkeling for 45 minutes. So I thought, okay, let's do this. I jumped in, followed the instructions. It was probably the longest 45 minutes of my life. And as I was snorkeling, I was deathly afraid of flipping over and then not being able to flip myself back. And then I thought, oh my goodness, I haven't seen anybody around me. I think they all forgot about me and left me here. And I think I'm going to die here in this cave. So, that whole mind over matter, my brain was just on fire, flipping over everywhere, trying to think of all the negativities. And then it was like, okay, calm down, take a deep breath. Let's figure this out. You're part of a group. No one's forgotten about you. You're here with your friend. She's definitely not forgotten about you. And so within, the 45-minute time frame, we ended up snorkeling. It was an incredible experience. I'm really happy that I did it. I'm happy that I put myself through that and got through my fear. But when we got to the end, they said, is there anybody who wants to get out, or do you want to still be in the water for a longer period of time? I was the first person putting my hand up saying, like, get me out. But I did it. And to me, it was terrifying because, when you're looking at something where, it's not signing the wrong document or making a small mistake, this is a fear of drowning for me. Which I had to overcome. I had to jump in, feet first and get it done to make the experience a lasting impression in my life.
Would you do it again? I mean, would you go sign for a mortgage again, or would you dive again?
You know what? I like to experience different things. You talked about me climbing an active volcano in Stromboli. Yeah, that's kind of scary as well, because when we got to the top, all you saw this lava and it was just bubbling. And it's like, okay, now I'm here. I need to get down. So yeah, it wasn't terrifying, but it was a scary experience. And even I was hiking through the Dolomites years ago with my other friends, and they said, oh yeah, we're going to do this. It's going to be fun. And I said, guys, like, I've been looking at YouTube videos and it's not as easy as you're saying. And they said, no, it's going to be a walk through the park. And then when we got there and saw all the limestone and how slippery limestone is, and then, you had to climb up to the top refugio and then climb back down and then get to, wherever your hotel was. I'm good about taking scary experiences and throwing myself in and doing it. Do I want to do some of these things again? Yes and no. It just depends. I put myself in another experience where I thought, I want to do the Tough Mudder half. I want to do the Tough Mudder. I want to go and challenge myself and do that. So I put together a team of 5 guys, my girlfriend Dora and I, and we challenged ourselves like crazy. Do I want to do that again? No, I've kind of been there, done that. I'm looking at new experiences right now.
So what these experiences give you? Is it adrenaline rush, or are you trying to see what scares you the most?
I think it helps with courage. We talked about courage, right? A lot of people don't have the courage of making a decision. I've had many young high school, university students say, how do you make a decision? I don't have the courage to make a decision because, what happens if it's wrong? And I keep saying, well, who cares? You make the decision, and once it's wrong, you still have that courage to change that decision. Do I do it as an adrenaline? Maybe a little bit of it. Yeah, I am A-type. I'm doing it to conquer certain fears. I'm doing it for me to take me to that next level. I love experiences in life. It's like a lot of people find speaking in public it death defying. A lot of people say it's the biggest fear that you'll ever experience. For you and me, we don't have that fear because we do it on a regular basis. Do I get nervous? Yes, I do get nervous just before every speech that I do, before every show that I take. I'm nervous because I want to make sure that I do a good job and I don't disappoint anyone where they're watching and they think, oh, this isn't worth watching or it's not worth my time. So I do get nervous. Am I an adrenaline junkie? I don't think so. But I do, maybe I am a little bit. Um, you want to talk about an experience? I was on the board of the Canadian Motorsport Hall of Fame, and I went around the track with James Hinchcliffe in his street Subaru. And I think after I got out of the car, I wanted to be sick, and I had those sea legs. Was it exciting for those 3 laps? Absolutely. Would I do it again? Absolutely. I like to try things that will stretch me and just put me over the edge a little bit.
So there are benefits of fear, even though it sounds like you should not risk and you should not put yourself in dangerous situations. One of them is survival. Fear acts as a built-in alarm system, alerting us to potential dangers. It triggers the fight or flight response, which we talked about with Dr. Amina episode 3. I recommend everybody who's listening to us to check Dr. Amina topic of fear, the biggest virus 2020. We talked about it during the first lockdown. The other benefit is heightened awareness. Fear makes us more aware of our surroundings. When we are scared, our senses sharpen, allowing us to pick up on subtle cues of danger. Finally, better decision making. And I'm wondering, what, in the sense of better decision making, was that the reason that you parted ways with your boyfriend? Was it your decision or your boyfriend's decision when you signed the agreement on the mortgage?
No, it was my decision, 100%. And I don't want to get into that personal aspect of my life. However, there are a lot of women out there that are in abusive situations. They live through fear. As you said, you've got the spidey senses of what will happen when the person comes home. You live with the fear of the situation, but then you also have that fear of what happens to me when I leave. So you're not only thinking about fear in the moment, you're thinking about fear outside of the moment. I think the most important thing to remember is with fear comes courage, because you have the courage to leave. You have the courage after you've had the fear to move on and change your life. So I think if you look at fear and courage, I believe that they go hand in hand. And I'm a firm believer as well. We're talking about all these experiences. I think in order for you to grow and understand who you are, you need to challenge yourself often.
In terms of courage and fear, you mentioned the fear of public speaking. And how was it, or was it the same, or was it different when you started your acting career?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. So let's go back to that. You know how a lot of people have different bucket lists, or, I want to do this in my lifetime. I'm a firm believer of doing things that you want. And so I'm also a firm believer of asking questions. My mother always said, if you don't ask, you don't know. So there is a friend of mine. There's 2 friends of mine that are directors, writers, award-winning director. One of them is Milcho Manchevsky, and the other one is Daniel McGuire. Now, I've asked both of them to place me in their films. Milcho is an Academy Award nominated, and I asked him to put me in as a reporter or a news anchor, and he said sure. So I'm waiting for that one. But Daniel McGuire, 3 weeks ago, we went and taped outside of a school in Toronto, like on the sidewalk, on the street, and it was all about this person who has committed murder, and I was telling everybody to stay inside. She's armed and dangerous, and the police are still looking for her. Did I do a good job? Who knows? They said it was fine, but I won't know until I see myself. And would I embarrass myself? Maybe I have. Who knows? However, it's that courage to step out of the comfort zone and try something completely different and new. When Daniel reached out to me 2 days before the shoot, I thought, oh my gosh, the fear set in. I thought, oh my gosh, this is really happening. And then, you've got the courage to say, okay, I'm going to go and do it. I think it's interesting too about me and my character. I always look at situations and think, I can do that. And I put myself in these crazy situations and agree to doing whatever it is. And then the day before, the day of, reality sets in, and I think to myself, oh my God, what have I committed to? What am I doing? And then just me being me, and not everyone's like that. I just think, you know what, just suck it up, get it done to the best of your ability. And that's pretty much how I function with the fear and the courage aspect of it.
And in terms of courage and confidence and doing things first time, it looks so easy from the outsider's point of view. Whereas, how did you set the boundaries? Is there something that you would never do? Like you mentioned that you thought you will never go diving, but you did it. Is there anything that really scares you that you would never do?
I don't know. That's a very interesting question, because there's a lot of things that scare me. But never say never. And I won't know until I'm in that situation. And of course, I'm not going to sit there and divulge everything that terrifies me right now. But however, I don't know. I think I just take it day by day, and whatever the situation is, whenever it occurs, I end up dealing with it then. I never think about, I'm never going to do this, or I'm never going to do that. Never's a long time. And putting those boundaries and parameters around yourself, saying you're never going to do something, I think you're selling yourself short. And I think we all need these experiences. Life is an experience. We all need experience to get us to that next level. You look at professionals. What do? You get better with time. Your critical thinking gets better with time. Your thought process gets better with time. Your courage to ask questions, your courage to say no gets better with time. So I would never say never, because you don't know what tomorrow will bring you.
So you mentioned, Elizabeth, that you still get nervous about certain situations. Were you always so courageous during your lifetime, or were you a scared little girl who would never speak in a room full of people?
No, I was always putting my hand up. I was always saying, I'll answer the question. I will do that. Excuse me, I wanted to be heard. As a child, I always wanted to be heard. And I think most of my friends know that when you know me. I wasn't that shy little girl. But I wanted to be on air. I wanted to public speak, but I never had that opportunity until later in life. Am I shy? I can be, believe it or not. Yes, I can be, where I don't want to be heard, or I don't want to say anything. And it all depends on where I am and what the day is.
Well, we one of the topics we delved on our previous show, we talked about courage is contagious, and I can definitely see that in the way you approach diving. You took your friend with you, but we know that courage doesn't always roar, and this is a quotation. Sometimes courage is the quiet voice at the end of the day saying, I will try again tomorrow, as Mary and Roadmacher said. Now, I'm wondering, do you have a word of advice to those who are not so courageous? How to really put that spark in your life and expand your courageousness?
Okay, so first it wasn't diving, it was snorkeling. Diving, I
Snorkeling.
think I don't know what I would do with diving. Maybe that's one of one of my biggest fears would be diving. Um, they
That's on
try.
our bucket list, Elizabeth, then.
I'm not so sure. However, never say never, right?
Exactly.
What would I say? Don't say no. Too many people quickly say no to things. Give things time to breathe. Give things time to live a little bit in your brain. Open your heart and your thought process to new experiences, whether it's at work, whether it's personally. I think too often people just dismiss things and say no, no too quickly. Don't say no. Think about it and say yes. Try new things because you remember, we need to keep challenging our brain. I mean, as we get older, we're constantly doing continuing education. We're constantly reading, learning, and life. I mean, look at what's happening with AI and social media and everything else. If you've been at home for a year or two and have been out of the workforce, you've got a lot of catching up to do. So never say never. The courage is to even just pick up a brand new article, something that's just outside of your normal existence. Do things that are a little bit different. Don't just keep getting into the same routine where you're not reading another publication or you're not educating yourself on something. Take courses. A lot of people say, I'm not good at art. I'm not great at painting. So go to one of those painting classes and do something. They open up your existence. It's funny. I had Shannon Gilaya on the show, and the show hasn't aired yet. She is a skeleton athlete. And the skeleton is where you lie head first on a toboggan and go 140 kilometers an hour. And I said to her, I said, okay, nobody wakes up in the morning and says, hey, I'm going to be a skeleton athlete. I said, how did you wrap your brain around doing this? Because the fear factor to go down a toboggan head first at 140 kilometers an hour, who does that? Nobody. Well, Shannon and teammates do. But she said she loves the adrenaline of it. She loves conquering the fear. She loves how different it is and how quickly she goes. For her, that's just a normal day. For us, that's like a crazy fear factor day, right? So I'm saying stay out of your comfort zone. Don't just be complacent and do everything over and over and over again. Try new things. I'm not telling everyone to try the skeleton because I don't think that's anything that I would ever try to do on my own. It's not something that I want to do. But challenge yourself a little bit. Do some hiking. Climb an active volcano. Go swimming. As long as you're with somebody, and as long as you're going to be safe and you're not going to injure yourself, because nobody wants to injure themselves trying to prove themselves.
Absolutely. This is parental advice. We do not recommend any of what we are going to talk in terms of fearful situations. Since we are talking about fearful situation, here is one fearful situation for me. Patrick is talking about, and that's my husband, is mentioning great listening to you ladies. Naturally, I am getting all revved up on the idea of leaves lapping with James Hinchcliffe. Would love to commentate on that one. Well, good luck, Patrick. I hope you're gonna come alive out of it.
But
Who
you know what?
knows?
I tweeted him out. I tweeted at him after an F1 race, and he never responded to me. So who knows whether he remembers me or not? But I do have a photo of his car.
There you go. That was definitely memorable for you, and
Not for
we
him.
clearly, clearly, you're not the only one who had this reaction. Anyway, we have another comment from Mary, who is asking, "Hi, Elizabeth. How can we prepare ourselves to face a fearful situation with courage? Do you have
You
any
know,
tips on?"
so I think it's the same thing as just how do you make a decision, right? Because everyone has to make a decision. Some are more fearful than others. When I make a decision, like I have a strategy for problem solving, I look at the positives and the negatives, or you can say risk and reward. What if I'm going to go and do this? What are the benefits and what is not beneficial to me? I look at every situation. I'm very strategic in what I do. I do not just make, quick decisions for something that may be life altering, life changing, everlasting. When it comes to very major decisions, I'm very strategic and I think very long and hard about them. You have to think about reputational risk as well. Um, is it going to be harmful to you? One of the things I do actually as well when I have to make a huge decision is I surround myself with incredible friends. And I know that I will never fail at anything because when I don't know the answer to something, whether I need, it's a fearful question and I need courage, I contact one of my girlfriends and they all work in different backgrounds and they all excel in different situations. And so when I need to come up with something, as I said, I'm strategic, I ask questions, I will go to the person who's best to talk to about that question to help me get to that next level. And I really look at every aspect of it. If it's going to be a life changing or a major decision for work as well.
Learning and growth. When we talk about fearful experiences, they can teach us valuable lessons about safety or what not to do in the future to avoid situations that caused fear in the past. You mentioned reputational risk. I guess we are not going to talk about that in this conversation. However, we were talking also about the fact that courage is critical when you're on a leadership board or role. So now, Elizabeth, tell us how can we benefit as a leader from courageous decision making?
Well, when you're a leader, you're leading people. People look up to you. It's funny. I sent an email internally, and a couple of people said to me, "Badass leader." That's on point, right? I am fair, yet I am tough. And anybody who knows me knows I am very tough to work with, but I'm also very fair because I want things to work out. I want the people that are looking up to me, like the next generation that's coming back, I want them to learn. As I am leading, I mentor all day long. I always talk about situations, learning experiences. This is a learning experience. Put yourself in this position. I think to be courageous as a leader, you need to communicate very, very well. It's point A or point B, but nothing that will leave somebody with questions saying, I don't understand what she meant. What does she mean by that? You know, if you and I were meeting for lunch, my email would be, I will meet you for lunch at 12 p.m. at this time at this place. I have all the facts. And I guess working in marketing and working within a regulatory aspect, you have to be on point with everything that you do. So when I communicate, I make sure that it's a firm communication and there's no questions at the end. I think transparency is important as well, because you have people looking up to you. One of the key things I believe is kindness as well. You were talking about leading with empathy before. I always think kindness is very important because you need to pay it forward. You don't know what day someone's having. You don't know if they're they're having a family situation, if they're in an abusive situation, they're having money problems, or they've just had to put their pet down. You don't know what people have been going through. So people may react a little bit differently. So I think leading with kindness, having the courage to put yourself out there and be a little bit vulnerable is important as well.
So, speaking about empathy, we know that you moved career, you left career as a journalist, and now you're dealing in finance. Both are quite combative when it comes to competition. So I'm wondering, how do you develop kindness and how do you work on your empathy when sometimes it's a very short pace and quick communication, and sometimes there is no time for kind messaging in between?
So I want to just step back for a moment because I do not want to diminish journalists. I was not a journalist. I worked in the control room. I was a script assistant. I was the office manager. I was a junior director. I was in the control room working on live programming and pre-tape programming as well. So, you focus on doing a good job. You focus on the people that you're working with. You have to collaborate. You have to become a really good team. You're only as strong as your team. Nobody got to where they are because they were, Superman, Superwoman, and they did it all by themselves. No one has ever got to where they are because they were brilliant on their own. We all surround ourselves with incredible people, and we need to make sure that we carry those people, through the ladder with us. It's funny, you were talking about, kindness. When I worked at Channel 47, Cable 4, it's now called Omni Television. I worked there in the late 80s, mid to late 80s. And a few years ago, I met this woman who did an article on me for Kingsway magazine. And she told me that her father used to work at Channel 47 as well. And I said, oh, what did he do? And because I didn't remember the last name. And she said, oh, he was the janitor there. And I said, oh my gosh, I remember him. And she said, yeah, he said you were kind to him. You were very nice to him. And I would hope that my legacy would be that, people remembered me because I was kind to them, regardless of what job they did, regardless of where they worked or where they were at that particular time. So, the courage to be kind, because a lot of people seem to forget. And if they're, distracted because of something else that's going on, sadly, some people may end up being, in the forefront of that.
Absolutely, and we are just not just talking about the work environment. We also talk about everyday life, being kind to the shop assistant, being kind to the janitor whoever the person is, no matter their role, big or small. Now we have another question from Ray Mendoza. Great PhD as always. Thank you, Racy. I'm wondering if Liz could have a superhero power specifically
Ooh,
designed for leadership. What would it be?
huh. That's a good question. A superhero power. Let me put my red cape on. Um, I think to be vulnerable enough to be able to think about that. That's a really good question. A superhero power. I think it would be vulnerable enough to surround yourself with incredible people and ask questions. I think asking questions will give you a certain vulnerability, and you need to ask questions in order to get yourself to that next level. A lot of people are afraid of asking questions, and a lot of people would just think, oh, it's a stupid question, but there's no such thing as a stupid question. It's much better than making assumptions, because once you keep making assumptions, you're just not going to keep going forward. That keeps you back. So to me, I think asking questions, because that encompasses transparency, communication, the critical thinking, and everything else that you need to get to that next level. So that would be my superhero power.
I love that. It really ties in with communication, and you mentioned communication as a key for any leader, but also asking questions help us set the tone of conversation and develop that empathy, because once we know where people are standing, they are helping us to understand what is their point of view, and definitely that helps our leadership skills as well, and moving forward with our projects, whatever they are. Now we have another question from Olga Vasina. Great chat, ladies. So, what propelled your desire to move into finance from media, Liz?
That's a really good question as well. So I was working on Canada's first daily business program called Business World. I worked for Southern News, and it aired on CBC News World. And after 8 years, they decided to just completely shut down the show, and I was going to be out of a job. And so I really didn't know where I wanted to go. At that time, it was 1997, and the internet was starting to come up. And there were a lot of new channels that were starting to come up. Like in Toronto, it was CP24, you had HBO, you had all these specialty channels that were coming on stream. And some people were even starting internet channels at that time because it was so brand new. And I couldn't wrap my brain around the fact that originally we had, let's say, 5 or 6 major television stations with advertising dollars. And now it was being diluted. Those advertising dollars were being diluted to, I don't know, 50 or 100 new stations. And I didn't understand how to make money in the media industry at that time. And so part of my severance, I asked them to sign me up for the Canadian Securities course, which they did. And so I wrote all the exams. I think it's 4 exams or whatever, which makes me licensed in the industry. Talk about fear. I was always fearful about finance in the business industry. I am interested in fashion. I want to do fashion. I wanted to do art. Art and fashion are, things that really interest me, but finance and business did not. They scared me, and there was that fear factor there. And I'm glad that you brought up that question, because the courage to go from a media career to a financial career, and then writing all your exams, and the pressure to write those exams and pass, and then working in this industry, they're like night and day. The two of them, you look at the office etiquette, the jargon, the regulations, they're completely different. And so it wasn't only writing exams, trying to get a foothold in the industry, um, but understanding the rules and regulations. And I can tell you, for the first 6 months, I walked around with that, deer in the headlights look, thinking, what have I done with my life? Why did I do this? Now, let me step back, because it's important to mention um, mentors. Mentors are very important in your life in order to get you to that next level. One of them was Christina Pochmersky, who was the host of Business World. And she took me under her wing, and she was my mentor for the longest time. The way I got my job here at Caldwell is Tom Caldwell was one of the guests on Business World. And so towards the end, I was asking a lot of guests, is your firm hiring? I didn't know what I was going to do. I thought maybe I was going to go into PR. I really didn't know what I was going to do. And I told him that I was signed up for the Canadian Securities course. And he said to me, I know what it's like to be sitting at home in your basement, feeling sorry for yourself without a job. Why don't I give you the opportunity to come into our office? You can use one of the client rooms. It'll get you dressed up. It'll get you in the financial district. And it will give you, the confidence to be able to move on. And the courage to say yes to that as well, because most people would think, no, that this is a crazy ask. I don't think I'm going to do it. But, he gave me the opportunity. I took it. And here I am, 27 years later on Bay Street still working for Caldwell Securities.
Excellent story. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. I'm wondering, how was your first days in the Caldwell offices? Was it did you sign a contract, or was it just an offer to use their rooms while trying to figure out your next career move?
Yeah. So basically, I was just given the room to come and network. So I would talk to people in the office, and I would use it as a home base. And I went to different job interviews. I wanted to do on air at the time, and so that was my focus. I did get an on air gig at one of the networks, and then just before I'd started, the gentleman who had hired me said he was replaced, and the replacement said, well, I don't know who you are. You have to come back and reapply for everything all over again. And I got discouraged, but I knew that this was something that I wanted to do. And then after 6 weeks of going to different job interviews and networking out of the office, Tom Caldwell came to me and said, we don't have a marketing manager. Are you interested in that position? And I said, yes. And then, through the years, I've become vice president marketing and, other things as well. So he gave me the start, and that's how it began.
That's excellent story, Elizabeth. I believe that saying yes to many opportunities is the way to go, but also asking questions like, are you planning to hire, is definitely one to consider if you're trying to get a job. Now, you're a host of a brilliant show called Empowered, and you only invite females who have achieved something great. So I'm wondering, how is Empowered making your money, if it is, and if not, why do you do that?
So I have not made a penny off of Empowered. I do it because through almost the past 20 years, I have hosted other television shows on financial literacy, and I want to help people. The reason why I created, prior to Empowered, I had Finances Personal. And the reason why I created Finances Personal was because I would see all these men on television giving their financial advice, giving their expertise. And I thought, women need a stage. We have a voice and we need to be heard. And there are a lot of incredibly smart, articulate women out there that really didn't have a platform, and I wasn't seeing them on television. So I decided to create Finance is Personal. And then when the News Forum took it on, I think I taped maybe eight shows at the time, and they contacted me and said, we want to change the name of the show in order to garner a larger audience. And at that point, I actually thought to myself, oh, thank God, because if it was just a show on financial literacy, there's just so much that you can cover within, a weekly national Canadian television show. But now with Empowered, there's so many topics that we can talk about that help women, whether it's their finances, whether it's cohabitation agreements, whether it's, do you need a mediator because you're going through a divorce, sports and women, how sports will show you leadership skills, women going through menopause, questions that you need to ask and that you need answered. I've got a female pilot coming on talking about being a female pilot. This has given so many women the opportunity to share their experiences. And maybe if there's a woman out there that wants to change her career, that's struggling with something personal, that's struggling with something professional, that is trapped and needs some inspiration, maybe they'll watch the show and it'll help get them that aha moment or help get them to the next level of their life. I had Summer Zavar on, and she wrote a book called The Good Wife. And she was a child bride, and she was in this situation where it was abusive, and all she wanted to do was have a university degree. And she talked about her steps of, saving money to go and get that university degree and eventually escaping this life that she had. I know for sure that a lot of women will watch that and it will give them some hope and it will give them some courage to make those difficult decisions that they need to get them to that next level.
That's incredible that we are in the 21st century and we still have to talk about, discuss financial literacy, how important it is for women to know their finances, to be freed from toxic marriages where one party is controlling finances. So, Elizabeth, what would be your advice to those who suffer with setting boundaries of their finances and being empowered to take the step towards financial freedom?
So I think one of the key things is, as couples, you need to discuss your money. You need to discuss your debt. You need to discuss how much money you're making. You need to discuss, how would I feel if, I wanted to spend more money, but you didn't want me to. I remember growing up, hearing stories about women, female immigrants that came to Canada, worked at factories, would bring home the paycheck. Their husbands drove them everywhere, so they didn't have a driver's license. Having a driver's license is the freedom to go. A lot of people don't have their driver's license right now either, but you know what? It gives you the freedom to pick up and go whenever you can. These women also, when their husbands passed, now they lost their ride, but they also didn't know how to write a check. They also didn't understand what a balance sheet was, how much money you had in the bank account, how much money is coming out to pay bills. Those are very important personal skills that everyone needs to know. It's easy to say, don't spend more than you make, but you need to understand how much you make and, how much is going out. Do you really need to spend that extra dollar on, a brand new cell phone or $1,000 coat? Maybe you should sit down and figure out how much money you make per hour to know how many hours you have to work in order to pay off for that $1,000 product. I think it's important for couples to understand where they stand in the money. If you do have an investment advisor, If it's, just your husband that goes to see it or your partner, go in and learn. Understand that having your own bank account, having your own credit card is empowering and it's important. It doesn't matter if you are in a really good relationship, loving, caring, equal, you should still have your own bank account, your own savings account, and you should still have your credit card. There are so many women out there that have supplementary credit cards to their husband. And once the husband is deceased or they go through a divorce, these women don't have a credit rating. It's very difficult for them to get a loan or a mortgage or get some money because they need it at that particular time. So we still need to take care of ourselves. You know how they say take care of yourself, work out, eat well, you know, go for the odd massage, facial, just make sure you have self-care. That's self-care as well.
Absolutely, it's an appointment you have to make, not just with the beautician. You have to make an appointment with your bank teller and make sure that your finances are in good shape. Eleanor Roosevelt once said, "Women are like tea bags. You never know our true strength until you put them in hot water." So, Elizabeth, how are you in hot water? How are you brewing?
How am I in hot water? So do you mean in very difficult situations? I, as I
Absolutely.
said, I look at the big picture. I assess everything, positives, negatives. I'm pretty good at making good decisions. Um, as I said, I and I hate saying as I said. I don't know why I said it, but anyway, I really enjoy the critical thinking part about it, putting myself into a situation and trying to figure out the right and the wrong. Am I good in hot water? I would like to think that I am. Others may not agree with me, but I would like to think that I am. I try to make the best decision at that particular time. And as I said, if it ends up being the wrong decision, you tweak it. You call in a friend and ask questions in order to get it back on the right path.
Hmm. Now, Elizabeth, I know you have no number one book that you wish you read it before you started your career, but you definitely advise to read a lot. You mentioned reading some publications. Do you have some favorite publications that you check early morning to know what's happening in the world?
Yes, I look at the Globe and Mail newspaper. I look at the Canadian Press, Reuters, the Financial Post. Like I look at all the Toronto Star. I look at all of the papers. Um, but I do read. I think I've read 5 books so far this year. I can probably list them. Rogers versus Rogers by Alexander Podzatsky. I read the Britney Spears memoir. I read Matthew Perry's memoir. I read Wine Witch on Fire by Natalie McLean.
Hmm.
There's another one. I can't remember what the other 1 or 2 books are, but I do read books. I read them for the show as well.
So it's fascinating. You like memoirs. What attracts you to other people's struggles?
I do because I think we can all learn from them. Um, People are experienced. You can learn from other people's experiences. You learn how they got to where they are. You learn mistakes that they've made along the way. You can compare yourself and say, well, did I make the same mistake? Oh, I went the other way. What would I have done in that situation? So those memoirs make me think. They make me think about how that person got to where they are, how I got to where I am. Um, you know, decision making. Did I make proper decisions? Did they make proper decisions? And I like to look at it and think, well, maybe I would have done something a little bit differently. So I use them as a learning experience for myself.
So, speaking of learning experience, your life lesson quote and how did it change you?
So my life lesson quote, I believe, was ask questions, right? I think that's what it was.
Yep.
Yeah, if you don't ask, you don't know. And that was a quote. That's a quote my mother has always taught me, and she always says, it doesn't matter. It could be purchasing something, asking for a discount. It could be, going to your telecom company and asking for a discount. Um, it, I ask a lot of questions, and sometimes it gets me into trouble, and sometimes it doesn't, because I know a lot of people don't like to be asked questions and don't like answering them. But my mom said, and it's resonated with me forever, if you don't ask, you don't know. So feel free to ask questions. We discussed this earlier with there's no stupid question. They're all good questions. The problem is when you start assumptions and you start making assumptions, that's when you get into trouble.
Let's imagine that you could meet anyone in the world for a private breakfast anywhere in the world. Who would you like to meet and where would you choose for your meeting venue?
Okay, so my answer is twofold. One is a person who's alive, and one who's a person who's deceased. The person who's alive, the person that I most would like to meet, even though I would have loved to have met, Queen Elizabeth, I've met Michelle Obama. Sadly, I didn't have lunch or breakfast with her, but those are two other women. But the number one to me right now would be Cher. And a lot of people are astounded when I say that. They're like, Cher. And it's like, yes, I would love to meet her in a palatial courtyard outside for brunch, or in the center of a vineyard, having some bubbly in our brunch. And the reason why I chose Cher is because she's had longevity. In the beginning, people said to her she was unattractive. Then they said she couldn't sing. Then they said she couldn't act. This woman has risen above so much negativity and so many people that were naysayers and saying, you can't do this, you're not good at it, you're not good at it. And all you have to do is remember her slapping Nicolas Cage in Moonstruck, snap out of it. Everybody needs to snap out of it. This woman is a trailblazer. And I believe that she's opened up doors for many, many women. And she's made me think as well. People said to her she would never be successful, and she wasn't good at what she was doing. And I love the fact that she proved everyone wrong. The second person that I would love to have breakfast with is my husband's mother, who deceased 25 years ago. Sally Dees is her name. She was a trailblazer all on her own. I heard stories of her in the 60s going to NOW meetings, NOW, and it's the National Organization of Women. And apparently she went to this meeting and they were telling her, ladies, you need to understand, you can have your own bank account and your own credit card and your own checkbook. You can actually do this have it in your own name. And she was astounded that women could actually have a credit card or a bank account in her name. And, she was a courageous woman. She got into a car, drove from New York to California, and started a brand new career there. And an interesting add-on to this is 3 weeks ago, I think it was, 2 or 3 weeks ago, her best friend was in Toronto and we had dinner with her. And she was telling us about what an incredible woman Sally Dees was. And her name is Susan Mendel. And she talked about all the trailblazing things that she did and the courage that she had before she passed from breast cancer. And the interesting part was Susan Mendel, she was there with her partner. And I asked him what he did. And he said that he was a writer for the Sonny and Cher show way back when Cher was with Greg Allman. And I was like, oh my God, this is the person that I've always wanted to meet. And he said, yeah, I don't know her. But I just thought, how weird and how interesting is it that it came full circle that he actually worked on her show. And if I didn't ask the question, I would have never known.
Hmm. Fascinating. Well, I guess, Elizabeth, that is a sign for you. You have to write your own memoir so everybody can learn from your past, your mistakes, and your grandiose life and experience of fear and not just fear. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to move from this fascinating topic. Thank you so much for sharing your insight and experience, Elizabeth, with us today. Your work is not only transforming the female landscape, but also paving the way for more sustainable future. We are leaving here today feeling inspired, and thank you once again for great stories. That's it from episode 147. Thanks to our guest. Next week, we are going to join with Claudia Borg. She is actually the first female who was at the launch party of our Woman on IT community. So, a full circle for us as well. We're going to talk about exploring language models and AI ethics. Thank you so much to our lovely audience for questions from Mary, Racy, Olga Vasina, IPOVIT. That was great to see you as always, those who could tune in. And if you would like to be alerted about next episode, turn that button of a little jingle bell and you will be alerted once we go live. As always, our positivity quote comes from Positive Thinking Only and goes, look for something positive in each day, even if you some days you have to look a bit harder. This is the end of the show. Thank you, Elizabeth, once again. And
Thank
today
you.
is your day to hack the future, hack the positivity you want. Thank you.